Hello and welcome to the second season of Cheers PA Beer Talk. I am your new host for the second season, Maalik Stark. And a big thank you to the PLCB for making this show possible. And follow us at Cheers_PA on Instagram and Facebook. And be sure to look out for new episodes every other Thursday. We'll be releasing those. And today we have a very special guest. She is the director of brewery operations at Zeroday Brewing and my coworker and the host of the Cheers PA Beer Tours, Hannah Ison.
Hi. Can I drink a beer?
I am.
Okay, perfect.
Cheers. Sweet. I think that we just want to get a grasp of like who you are, what are we to expect from the beer tours this season, and a little bit about how you got into the craft brewery industry and all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've been in the industry now for almost 8 years. It'll be 7 years in May that I've been on the production side of the brewing industry. I got into craft beer by drinking it, like most people, I guess. But I moved up to Harrisburg from Kentucky back in 2015, and I moved into a small like neighborhood in the city of Harrisburg, like really close to where I worked in politics. And there happened to be a new brewery that had just opened right across the street from where I worked and right beside where I live. So it was literally like this brewery that I walked by like every day just kind of became like my watering hole. And then eventually I started like bartending there part-time. And then like a year into that, I was kind of like looking for a career change. Politics were pretty hard in 2016, and I needed to get out. And so the owners and founders of Zeroday at that time were looking to like bring on someone else onto their production team, and I had shown like a lot of interest in like how beer was getting made and like just I always kind of needed to know like as much as I could about the thing that I was selling. Like I asked a lot of questions and just like I don't know, had showed a lot of interest, I guess, in the production side. And so they kind of like offered me an opportunity to like train as a brewer. And it was definitely like a leap for me because I never really thought of myself as like a very mechanically minded person. I've always been like really book smart and like I can learn anything, but I was really I wasn't so confident that I would be able to learn how to brew. But I did like a 6-month in-house training program that was just kind of created as we went with the owner. And yeah, I learned how to brew. And then I went from like assistant brewer to head brewer to production manager to maternity leave. I had a baby. I brewed up until I was like 8 months pregnant. And then I stopped brewing for a little while, came back after like a 6-week leave, brewed a couple of batches, hosted a big collaboration brew, and then COVID hit. And so our business has changed. So much about Zeroday has changed since COVID and like the industry in general. But I still have my hands on the brewing side of things. Just I'm also involved in a lot more as it pertains to the business than being on the brew deck or on the floor in the brewery, even though maybe that's where I feel the most comfortable and confident. I'm trying to solve all kinds of other problems now too. So yeah, that's kind of like my journey in brewing in a nutshell. And where I am today.
Yeah, I mean, that's super awesome. Like that's a most people don't get to say that they went from bartending to brewing. So that is, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a very cool transition. I feel like I know a lot of the questions I'm going to ask you just because we do work together. I'm one of the assistant managers at Zeroday, so I get to see Hannah multiple times a week through work. So, I mean, but
This is
yeah,
for you
whenever,
guys.
yeah, this is for everyone else. Um, yeah, I think whenever I started there, you were still, or you were just brewing, not just brewing, but you were brewing at that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. That was like when our new tap room opened. So
Yeah,
we opened like during COVID, we like shut the whole, like we only did to go orders. There was nobody on staff except for me. And we were just like filling crowlers at the old brewery, at the old tap room, which is still the brewery. Um, and we were like tearing down walls and doing demolition. And it was just really, it was all like planned before COVID, but then like COVID happened and it seemed like much more dramatic, I guess, because like the world was shut down and we were like tearing down the walls of the business. Um, but at the same time of like tearing down that old tap room and building out our newer or updated beautiful brewery, we were designing a and building a beautiful new tap room, just like less than half a mile away, still in the same neighborhood. And that opened in March of 2021. And that's when we first met. That is when you started with Zeroday.
yeah,
um, yeah, and that's right around like when that was the beginning of the first season of Cheers PA too. So there was like a lot of like cool new things happening. We were going around the state then, going to all the different beer trails, like trying to we hit every single beer trail and found like fun things to do um, while we were fun and terrifying things. I was like, I grew up in Kentucky, but I was so scared to film while I was on a horse. Like, and I just didn't know until check out our Poconos episode from season 1, and you can see how uncomfortable I am trying to remember lines while on top of it.
I'm not a fan of horses either, so that would be very terrifying for me. Uh, but it's cool.
I
It's
think it's
cool though to
like
go
a
around.
fun. Yeah, it was really visually appealing too. I think like it was a pretty scene, but I was like so uncomfortable.
Like going around to the different places during the first season. How did that give you more like insight or inspiration when it came to like seeing how other places made beer, their process, or like the things that they were doing, whether that was like a different way or anything like that? Like, is there anything that stuck out?
I think honestly, like I saw how we're all kind of doing the same thing in our own
Okay.
way. I mean, like the process is is real, like everybody can dial in their process, but in their own unique way. But like the way that you get from grain to glass is pretty similar for the most part. I think what the traveling and like seeing the different places like throughout kind of showed me is how like important like local is like it,
Mhm.
and really like the places that really like hone in to like their local community and not only like try to bring outsiders in but also try to really like um integrate within their community like those and lift up that community, like those are the places that really like stand out and are special. um and I saw a lot of really awesome places that were really unique based on, because of like where they were, you know? I mean,
Hmm.
like Straub was one of the places we went to, and it was literally in the middle of nowhere, but it's this like giant brewery that was like a lager only brewery for forever, for a long time, like since, I guess, since pre-prohibition. Um, and they had this concept, they had the eternal tap, and it was the concept was that like inside of the brewery there were three taps that you could just walk up to as like a neighbor or someone passing through town or whatever, and come inside of their brewery and pour yourself a beer for free. They had this like, I don't know when it started, but it was a long time ago. And it was way before like the tap room concept existed. And so like it was a way for like people to come and hang out at the brewery while they were making beer that then got like, you know, distributed in bottles, um, that people bought. But like it was that like reciprocity concept. Like this brewery was like giving people free beer, but and they were also like letting people be like around it being made, and people were like in turn investing in buying that product. And even after they like, we got to sit inside of that tap room, which was less than 10 years old, and you know, interview one of their owners, and I still was able to pour out of that eternal tap. Like even after they opened a tap room like on that same property where they sell beer, they still have that same concept. At least I did back in 2021. And I I just thought like there's so many like little unique things that places do like special to their space, but when they carry those things on and like really hone into like what matters to their community, I think that, I don't know, it just that I was really inspired by all those like individual things, maybe more of like the community aspect of it than like the
Yeah.
brewing process side of it.
No, I think that definitely helps. Like having exposure um, to like a craft brewery that is local is, I think that's super cool and helpful to like get people into craft beer. Because just growing up, I couldn't name a craft brewery, you know, before I was 21. And I know that there are people who may not be 21, but they know of like the local, like Zerodays and all of these things because it's more of
Right.
a community thing that you can go to and have dinner and like sit with your parents or whatever.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I grew up like in a smaller town, so I get that like right after turning 21, like bigger breweries never stuck out to me, not as like a knock on them, but going to like a smaller one in my town was more, I don't know, welcoming. Like it didn't seem like, it seemed more like a hangout that you could go to with like close friends and family and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, like that comforting like place where you can like, I don't know, there's just something like safe in those spaces.
Yeah.
That at least I've found in a lot of my favorite ones. I also didn't like know really anything about craft beer until I was 21. Like I wasn't exposed to craft beer until I'm maybe that's like because of my age, maybe. Like I know around here in Pennsylvania, like the craft beer boom started happening like in the late 90s, but
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not sure like where I grew up, like my hometown just now got its first brewery like 2 years
Really?
ago. Everything kind of happens like 10 years behind in Kentucky. So like Lexington, where I went to college, like there was a brewery that opened, there were two breweries that opened while I was in college. And I think those were some of the first like craft, I guess like Kentucky, like All Tech would have been around back then, but and the ones who make like um the like bourbon barrel stout or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought that beer was that I thought all beer was gross. Like until like I remember the first beer that I had was like a sip of Bud Light, and I like couldn't get the taste out of my mouth for like 3 days. Like I thought it was so disgusting. But then like once I turned 21 and like started going to those two breweries in the town that I was in for college, like it was so welcoming. Like it felt
Mhm.
so good to be in those spaces. And then also like the people were like helping me figure out what I wanted to drink because I had no idea. Because everything
Yeah.
was so like but yeah, like Country Boy Brewing and West Six Brewing, like they were in like a really cool part of town that was like up and coming, um, revitalizing that part of town or whatever. And I found myself like renting a home in that part of town. And so it's just like walkable and
Yeah.
close and I don't know. But then I also found Stone IPA and Ruination. And like after I had Stone, like I was hooked on craft beer. And then like when I would travel after that, like the year I was 22, like I traveled a lot of places uh, around the country and internationally, and like I always was looking for the local brewery first when I got to a new place, and
Yeah.
like that's just kind of what like that's why when I moved to Harrisburg, like I found a local brewery pretty much right away. Like it's like I went to those places to like find out where else to go and where like I don't know. It's I've I've felt like some of the most friendly spaces I can go to are craft breweries, and um yeah,
I
I
agree with
hope a
that.
lot of
I
other people
mean,
feel the same way.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Like I tend to travel a lot of places by myself, and I don't know what I'm gonna do when I get there. If it's anything like on the like a side kind of thing, like I'll go for a game or something like that. But as far as places I'm gonna eat, what am I gonna do to like kill time or anything like that?
Right.
I don't have a plan, but I know if I find a brewery, I can stay there for 3 or 4 hours, not just spending all that time drinking, but
Right.
talking to the bartenders and people. Like, I don't know. I personally feel like beer people are my people. Like that they're more welcoming. Um, I never feel out of place there. And I think that's what a lot of people look for with craft beer specifically.
Yeah,
Or a brew
absolutely.
pub. Like any place that has like more than just the beer they make on tap. That is still
Yes.
like a local brewery.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And you said that Stone was the first craft beer that you had. I think it was the same for me. It might have been
Yeah.
Escoveza.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
love that
love
one.
their double IPA is still to this day my favorite double IPA. Ruination is just so, so, so good. I guess the like Stone IPA, but I can't say it's my favorite IPA. But that their double is like that's my like desert island beer. Like it is so good. So good.
So, would you say that IPAs would be your favorite type of beer?
This question is always so hard. I mean, like I like different beers at different times. So like if I'm it sounds crazy, but like in this industry, like you'll find yourself at a lot of events or in a lot of situations where there is a lot of beer being presented to you over the course of days. So,
Mhm.
like in those kinds of situations, I especially like to lean towards like a lighter, like easy drinking lager. Um, I'll always like go for a light lager, like a lower alcohol lager, and the type of lager kind of depends on like what season it is. Like I love like seasonally, I love a Helles, like or a Helles Bock. Like those are like in springtime, I love those. Like right now, I love Zeroday's dark lager. Like I love the tradition of seasonal lagers, and I brewing lagers well takes really honed in like processes, and there's not really like a lot of like room that you can hide behind mistakes. So I think that like when I especially go to like a new brewery, I like to try a lager first if they have one, just to kind of like gauge, um see, you know, there's not a lot you can hide behind. So like
Hmm?
see what I think it's gonna be. That being said, like IPAs are what got me into appreciating craft beer. Like I didn't switch from drinking Miller Lite to a, a light lager from a brewery. Like I switched from
Hmm.
Miller Lite to IPAs because they were different and unique, and I especially love like the West Coast style, but balanced bitterness and with balance with malty backbones. Um, but I kind as like I drank so many of those probably, and I think that kind of got some like palate fatigue after a while, and I was like, okay, I'm over IPAs. Like I'm light lagers is where it's at. Like that's what I want to do. But then this last year, like during the hop harvest time, so back during September, I actually had an awesome opportunity to go out to experience hop harvest in Idaho.
Okay.
And so like most of the hops grown in the US are grown in Washington in the Yakima Valley. Um, but like around 20% of the country's hops are also grown in Idaho. And there's a new processing facility there that's like less than 10 years old. And they like invited brewers from around the country out. And I got to go out there, and I was like walking through these fields while people are coming and like running these picking machines, pulling them off, and just like taking in these intense aromas, and like walking through these facilities that are processing them down. Like I toured like 4 processing facilities and 5 farms in one day, and like the sensory overload, like I've never experienced sensory overload like that ever before in my life. But it like reinvigorated like my love for hops and like the intensity of hops and like an appreciation for the diversity of hops
Mhm.
in a whole new way. And I think I fell in love with IPAs all over again during that trip. And like not just IPA, like we experience hops, like they're in all hops are in every kind of beer, but like we taste and smell different ones more intensely. They're utilized more in IPAs
Mhm.
than most other styles. And I found this like I just got really excited about different hops all over again, and I found myself gravitating more and more towards IPAs now again since that trip. I also saw a bunch of like hop waters out there, so like non-alcoholic carbonated water that showcased hops. And I
Oh.
know there's like a really big trend right now in like non-alcoholic beers and non-alcoholic spirits, and I really would love to try my hand at like making a hop water and like showcasing some of like my favorite hops, but using it in a more delicate way in a product that anybody can drink, um like
What's
no matter
that
how old you are. uh,
that
or
process of like making hop water? Like, is it can those hops that are used for that then be used for beer? Like that seems from a I don't have a grasp on that. So
I think they would I don't think so. I mean, they would
okay.
probably be like, yeah, I think they still use a lot of like pellets for that, and they would probably be just like saturated. But honestly, I don't know what the process is. Like
Okay.
I I I think you would probably like use them. I think you would like boil water and put it like sanitize water, put it into a fermenter, and then probably add hops like on cold.
Okay.
But I don't know. But there's some really unique ones that like there's one out there at like this really special farm that I got to go to like at night and see like harvest happening at night, which is a really important reminder that like it's like a 24/7 thing when it's going on. Like these people literally work nonstop. But this one that we tasted at that farm, like it reminded me of like green tea, like mint and tea. And I don't know if it really was minty or if I just like my favorite kind of tea is minty. So like I associate mint with tea, but like I thought that that one would lend itself so well to a hop water, like a almost like a green tea water. I don't know. So that's kind of my how I want to take my first stab at that if I get a chance to. Um, but yeah, that's one project that's
cool.
reeling in my brain.
I'd be willing to try.
Maybe nobody would like it, but
no, I don't know if it's anything like Perrier or like what is lollipop soda, like the carbonated waters. I don't see why it wouldn't be good as well. LaCroix, yeah, that one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like a big group, like a growing group of people who are choosing not to drink alcohol and especially beer. So I think that like we make a non-alcoholic ginger beer, and like we also offer like sodas and that, but like as far as like things that we make one thing that doesn't have alcohol in it. And if we want to start, I don't want to say like following trends, but I do think it's important to like listen to what your customer base wants and try to kind of like diversify and have options. So I kind of want to dabble in that, and if it's really popular out west right now,
it'll get here.
I think we're gonna see it here. I really do. So I don't know.
Anything that everyone should know about, the coming up season of beer tours with you as a host?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we've got 15 episodes this season that we're super excited about. We're gonna definitely hit up some places that we didn't last season, but we're going to still like keep it really spread out across the state and make sure that we're, geographically covering a lot of different areas. Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. We have some really cool ideas and some more work to do to like round out the season. But yeah, I'm really excited. I feel I was like a brand new parent like when I did the last season. So I'm like I've grown in confidence as far as like learning how to be a mom and also learning how to like be a person outside of being a mom. So I'm really confident that like I'm gonna not be as sad about being away from her as I was. And like I'm just like I feel like I've grown a lot more just honestly like as an individual and as a person. And I think that I'll be able to be a lot more like present and confident in front of the camera. And I'm really excited for another opportunity to travel around and do fun stuff and drink beer with my friends.
Awesome. Yeah, same. I mean, probably won't make it to a lot, but I'll drink beer with you guys in spirit for the most part. All right. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us on this episode. Thank you all for listening. Look out for new episodes. They should come out every other week. You can check that at cheerspa.com. And cheers.
Cheers.